guys, hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now, I know in previous videos I've talked long and hard just how much I love bags, but you know, when I'm not thinking about bags, generally I'm thinking about watches. Over the last couple of years there's been a couple of watches that, you know, I'm happy to say that I've lusted over these watches. The first one was the GA-100, which eventually I got, and it didn't really suit me. The second one, which I'm happy to say has been a massive success and I genuinely do love it, is the Shock G Lide or Glide GBX-100. So as we usually do, you know, I'll turn the camera around so we can have a look at this, but before I do, I have to say that this watch has single-handedly ruined me. There's a few features on here that I like, there's a few features on here that I use quite a bit, but the display on this, if Casio doesn't adopt this display, I'm talking to you Casio, I hope you're watching, no, I mean I hope, I know you're watching, it's the Moorlander, I know you're watching. You need to adopt this display across your entire range going forward. This display really is the future of Casio G-Shock watches, and you really have to do that. So what I'll do is I'll turn the screen round. I'll turn the camera around as I usually do while I'm doing that. If at any point you've enjoyed this content and you'd like to show support for that, then please feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. That would be awesome. But for now, let's have a look at the GBX-100. So I'll try and keep this as steady as I can for you. But what we'll do is we'll go through some quick dimensions, we'll have a quick look at the materials, and then we'll have a look at the features of the watch, and then we'll have a quick look. It'll just be a slight overview of the app. There is a partner app to the GBX-100. It does have some smart features of the watch, and you know, you can transfer data between the watch and the app, so it would be right that we just had a quick look at that. But as far as size, the face on the watch is 46mm, and from lug to lug it is 48mm, which is kind of standard for your G-Shock style square watches. Although it is an octagonal face, you generally find with your G-Shock square face that it's not as square really as the name would state. As far as the materials, it's fairly, again, standard for your G-Shock. It's pretty much made from resin. You can see that there's a stainless steel back. It does have this stainless steel bezel around the face, which is actually quite nice. Now, I've seen a few teardowns of this watch, and it literally is just, you know, it just sits within this plastic and can be removed very easily. But what I do find with quite a few G-Shock watches, here I've got a Mudmaster one, you do find that it's this outside resin that tends to get the most bashing as far as they're concerned. So having this here on the outsides, I think it's quite a nice one. It's a nice accent against the teal colour that we have here, but also it stops quite a bit of that wear and tear that you generally tend to get around the face. As I mentioned, you know, these are reasonably simple if you're into breaking down your watches and being able to swap certain things. These are reasonably easy to change, so if you did want to exchange this for a different type, there are third-party extra faces for these, then you know, you can certainly do that. Now, I mentioned, so if I bring this back a little bit further, this is the teal version. When these were originally released, there were three colours. There was a white, a black and a teal. I think recently, if memory serves me right, they have released a few additional versions. There's a completely all black version where the face of this has a black finish to it, which is really quite nice. But it was this original teal version that really kind of sparked my interest when I first saw it. So if you want to keep it real, go for teal. Yeah. That was cheesy. As far as material, so that's mainly the face. The display on it is a standard kind of mineral crystal display, and then you have a resin case. You can see, hopefully you can see in the back here, so the resin case, and then you have a harder resin case here in the middle. but you can separate the two. But hopefully you can see that there's a difference between the teal here on the outside and the black on the inside. For the people that like to see that case back, you can see that it is G-Shock, made in Japan. The module number is 3480, and there you can see it's the GBX-100, and it comes with a stainless steel back. I know certainly people like to see those details on there. To be able to take it off, there's the 4 screws in each of the corners if you did want to do that yourself. Rather than having the quick release pins like some of the newer G-Shocks have, these have the kind of standard rods in the back that you need a quick tool to be able to get those out. So it's not particularly or really designed to have the straps rapidly changed, although it is fairly simple still to be able to change those straps. Now, as far as the straps are concerned, I really do like the strap on this. I don't know why. I mean, I can probably guess why, but the resin or the material that they've used in this is a lot lighter and it's a lot more malleable. Now, this isn't a particularly scientific test. I'm going to go back to this Mudman again. But if I was to hold these two here like that and then just give them a wobble, hopefully you can see, and I'm certainly not trying, if I try and do that with this one, but then do it with that one, you can see that the GBX-100, it's certainly a lot more malleable and a lot easier on the wrist. I'm guessing that because this is designed to be more of a surfy style, maybe it needs to go over something, a wetsuit, or it's just really nice on the wrist. But hopefully you can see it's double holes all the way through. There are some extra venting ports here, which I think again is just so that if you're in the surf and you need to be able to get water from underneath it, then there's extra ports that it can get out. The top strap here, the keeper, it's one of those keepers, if you can see in there's a couple of teeth in there, and what the teeth do is the teeth engaged in here, so that when it's closed, if I get this closed and then I push that through there, what those teeth do is they engage in those holes to stop it from sliding back. As far as the buckle is concerned, it has a metal double tang buckle to keep it extra secure. Slight downside is that it does have a plastic or resin buckle here. You might be able to get third-party updates to those, but as far as the strap is concerned, I really do like the strap on this. The main reason that I keep going back to the Mudman here is, as far as G-Shock straps are concerned, I've always found that the Mudman, for my particular wrist, I have a 7.5 inch wrist, it's just perfect. It seems to always fit me, and there's just enough additions that I can get the right one. But also I find, because I have a large wrist, that I'm not at a point that I do find with some G-Shock watches that I've got it like that on my wrist. I do find that with the GBX-100 that it's a reasonably long strap, so if you're a person that prefers a longer strap because you have a wider wrist, this is definitely the watch for you. But when it's on your wrist and you're just moving around through the day, because of this extra malleability, it certainly makes it nice on the wrist. So I'll stop there, because I really could talk a lot about that, and this is a great selling point for me. But the huge selling point that I've already touched on is this display. This display has to be the future of Casio G-Shock watches, or just Casio watches. When I put that up there, hopefully you can see that is absolutely crystal clear, and this is the negative display version. I'd like to see, I've not seen a positive display version of these. However, I've not had any issues whatsoever. Even in reasonably dark light, you can still be able to read this watch. The viewing angles when it's on your wrist, hopefully you can see there, the viewing angles are excellent. to be able to see this, if you need to glance down at your watch, maybe if you're driving, or even in a situation where you shouldn't really be looking at your watch, you can glance down at it, and from a quite small angle you can still see the display on here. But yeah, I can talk long and hard just about how nice this display is. The watch is operated by 4 function buttons, so you have a display button, a mode button, a lap button and a start button, which we'll have a look at the moment. And there is an additional button that you get with a lot of G-Shock squares here at the bottom, which turns on the light. The light on this is actually reasonably good. I think because this display is that good, it certainly makes it easy to be able to see that. But as I mentioned, you know, when it's just coming into dusk, where you might struggle with another negative display from Casio, you really don't struggle with this. Even if I turn it there, so I'm catching the light, it's still very easy to read. Now, to point out on here, we have day and date, we have the time, which I have in 24 hours because I'm an adult, and then we have the day, and then we have the seconds counting there. So you can go through each of the different modes, which we'll have a quick look at. The mode button, so the mode button is, think of this as a traditional G-Shock watch, similar to as you would with this one, where you go through the different modes and you have your stopwatch and so on. So you have your first one is your countdown timer, then we have the stopwatch, then we have activity. So depending on what activities you've done recently, because you can record activities on your watch, you can find those on here. And then you have notifications. Now personally, I like I've talked about this in the past, but I like a smartwatch that suits me. So I tend to find that as far as notifications are concerned, I'm more than happy to look at my phone to find notifications. So I've not particularly used these, but I have turned them on so that you can, you get to see if you've got a text message or if somebody is calling. And then you press mode again and you get back to your main screen. Now, hopefully, if you've noticed, if I come on some of these, which I really do like, is the fact that on the vast majority of these, while you're, let's say you're in here and you have a countdown timer, maybe you're doing a circuit kind of routine, you can set up through the phone, the app for this, you can set up certain routines. So maybe you're going to do some interval training, 3 minutes hard work, and then a 20-second gap in between. Then you can do that on here, but you still can see the time whilst you're doing that. Same here with the stopwatch, you can still see the time on there as well. So they're all of the actual modes themselves. With this being a surf style watch, then there are some other modes that are in there as well, but it's also more of an activity watch as well, so there are some other activities that you can track. Now, to go onto the surf mode, you press this button down here, and what this will do is this will take you through different settings, and it does kind of have a memory on there, so whatever was the last one that you were looking at will take you through those. So if I keep pressing these, you'll be able to see that there are a few different pages of this. But if I want to maybe keep it on there and then go back to the main screen, whenever I go back to there, it will make sure that it reverts it back to that screen that you just looked at. So for this case and purposes, let's say that this is the main screen, and on here for you surfers out there, you'll be able to set up certain locations. Let's say, here in the UK, there are certain areas where generally, the tide is always the same, but there are certain estuaries, certainly around the north of the Isle of Wight, that because there are small areas where tides get pushed in and out of, then you can find that the tides are slightly different and the swells are slightly different. Even around the south of Anglesey through the Menai Straits, you have similar there. So when I got this watch a few months back, I was in, where was it? I was in Aberystwyth. So I've set this to Aberystwyth, and it will show you high or low tide. On here as well, you can also see what the moon will be that evening, and then, as I say, you can also see along the bottom here that we also have the day and the date as well. If we go on to the next bit, it just gives you more information around the tide, when the next high tide and when the next low tide is. And then again onto the next one. Now this one, I actually quite like this, and I have used this before. This is because it has high tide and low tide. It also gives you when sun up and sun down is, and you've got your moon phase there as well. Sorry, I keep putting my thumb on here, but you have the moon phases on there as well. So I mean, this is great if you're out and you're adventuring and you need to know when the sun is going to be down wherever you are. But I can imagine, you know, there's certain religions that they have fasting through the year, and I know they'll have an app on the phone to say, you know, this is when you can start to eat and this is when you can't eat. But to have something on a phone, something on a watch like this, where you can see when sun up and sundown is, I can see that it's not just for surfers. There are a lot of people that will be able to take advantage of this. Now, to be able to get back off there, you press the button here up in the top right hand corner and it will take you back to the main screen. Now that is the surfing style side of it. If you're into activities, then it's this top button here at the top which says display. So in here, there is a pedometer within this watch that will give you information about the amount of steps that you've done that week. Now, unfortunately today, I've only done 531 steps. Now, that's not because I've only done that. As always, you know, watch check time. In fact, here is the Casio Duro. So this is what I'm currently testing out. So over the last week I've not been wearing this, but here you can see that this is your daily step counts, and you can see on there it gives you each day that you've got there. Also you can see as well that you've got your time and date on there at the bottom as well. But when you press the button again, sorry I missed that, you can see on there that it also gives you how well you've been doing. Oops, just gone out, slightly out shot. You can see how well you've been doing over the month. And then if you press it again, you've also got on there, you've got dual times. Now, this is one thing that I would possibly change about this watch. Now, when you look at a lot of other watches, you dual time if you want to see another world time. It just feels slightly out of place. So here, you know, we're looking at tides, we're looking at the moon and stuff. Here we're looking at your fitness and steps per day per month. But then randomly it shows you, you know, I have colleagues in Chicago. This is why I have Chicago on there at the moment. But it would seem to me that this is just slightly out of place. The world time or dual time should actually be part of these functions down here with your stopwatch and countdown timer and that sort of thing. As I say, it just seems slightly out of place there. Press it again and then it will go back to your main screen. So that's the fitness side. Now, if you did want to go for a run or you wanted to track some sort of activity or something like this, that's where your this top button here is concerned. So you press it once and then you'll be able to see it. You know, it kind of engages it to say, yes, do you want to start this? Because I can imagine if you just had to press it once, then people would be pressing that all the time and get really infuriated by it. Then if you did want to go for a run, you'd start that, go for a run, I don't know, do whatever it is that you want to do, stop it, and then it'll give you a little bit of a summary. Now, if it was that you pressed it by accident, you could resume it. If it was that you'd been for a proper run and you wanted to save that, then you could do. Obviously, in this instance, you know, that was an accident, and then you can delete that off. But as far as the activities in here are concerned, they were the activities that you could see in your mode menu. So you could always see what your last activity was if you wanted to go back to that and get a summary of information. But the best way to look at those activities is actually through the app. Okay, Okay, so here is the app itself. Now what I'll try and do is I'll try and get all of this in, and there you go, you can see the reflection of my filming equipment there. So the app here really does complement the watch, so that you can go through the different settings, but then you can also see your activities on there. So this was the last activity that I did, which was the Manchester 10K. And this is one thing as far as accuracy is concerned. So when I prefer to run, I try to do the Spartan thing and run with as little as possible. So I have just been using this as a pedometer, and it's actually really quite good at working out from your height and your weight and all of the metrics that you can put into this. It's actually really good at working out your distance. One thing that I have found is it has a roughly 400 meter lag on it. And I don't know if that's the watch calibrating itself. I don't know if that's the watch just trying to pick up its pace or whatever it's doing. But this was a 10K, and you can see I'm roughly 400 meters short. In fact, if I come into the activities here at the bottom, sorry, I'm trying to do this whilst looking at it as well. So here is history. So there is the Manchester 10K, which was roughly 400 meters short. This was another 5K that I did, which again is roughly 400 meters short. This was another Friday run, which we do, which is just kind of short of 7K. And again, so a buddy of mine, he runs it with his mobile in his pocket, and again, it's roughly 400 meters short. So as far as accuracy is concerned, it's actually reasonably good without the GPS on working out what your distance is whilst you're running. But I think possibly what I need to do is change the settings on here, maybe as far as my gait is concerned, so it will pick that up. But I think the difference is, though, it's always, whether it's a 10K, a 5K, a 7K, whatever it is that I'm running, it always seems to be roughly 400 meters short. Now I think that must be that first initial 400 meters when the watch is going, right, okay, I'm running now, I need to start logging this. I don't know what it is, but if you're thinking of using this for running, in fact, I'd love to hear if anybody has found this. Have you found that you're roughly 400 meters short when you are running with these? Now that was under, so, oh, let's go back into that again, sorry. So when you're on here, you'll see at the bottom here, you have your home button, which gives you some general information. Then there's also an activity button, and then there's more buttons. So here under activity, here is a list of all of the different runs that I've been doing this. I run 3 or 4 times a week, and completely forgot that I should be tracking it half of the time. Then at the top, it gives you a little bit more of analysis. So let's say I was on history and we were looking at this one here. Here you can get more of a detailed analysis into you know, my pace and time and all that sort of stuff. You can sync your phone with it, so it'll use more of an assisted GPS, and what that will do is that will use your phone's, the watch, so that you can count your steps and that sort of stuff, but then your phone will then link up to GPS so it can track some other things. But that would fill in a lot of this information here. You know, I just had to tap on that there for a second, but there you can show the distance and your speed over the distance, and then you can show the time as far as how well you were doing. Might be a bit tricky, and I do apologise as far as this is concerned, but again, with analysis you can look at trends on how you run and how you've been running over that month. And then with plan, what you can do is you can put in additional information in here. Let's say you were going to go on a run and you knew the route, you'd be able to put things like that in here as well. Here on the bottom under more, this is where you can put in different information. So as far as user is concerned, you can put in here your height, whether you want it to measure miles per hour or kilometers per hour, and then personal information about yourself. So it will ask you your sex, your height, your weight, so that it can use that towards metrics. Then underneath, as far as the watch is concerned, you can update the software, you can use the GPS if you want to with here. You can have a look at the display, the alarms. Now the alarms can all be set So you can do that kind of standard G-Shock set up to 5 separate alarms. There is also a vibrate motor in here as well, so that you can use the vibrate instead. The one thing that I do miss, and if I have missed this, I'd love to hear, please correct me in the comments below, because it's one thing that I have tried to find. But the one thing that I really like about G-Shock watches is it gives you that hourly time signal, which this one doesn't do, and I certainly do miss that. But with your graph tide here, you can put in things there as far as, you know, where you are in the world and so on. But there's lots of different settings that you can change in there to make sure that it's up to date for you. And then there's some extra information as far as connection guides and that sort of stuff. And then there's also a handy little watch or a phone finder which you can set in there as well. Now that's just a quick overview of the app, but what I thought I'd do just in this last bit was just to give you a little bit of a size comparison. Now I know I keep bringing up the which one is this? This is the G8000, but here also just for scale, if you have the Casio World Time, this is probably the closest as far as the display is that I can get. But hopefully, again, just, you know, I was talking about being able to see it from different angles. Hopefully you'll be able to see that the angles on this are absolutely amazing. Now, I put the GBX-100 on this pedestal. I tend to do that a lot with watches, and that's because, you know, I like to get very involved in them. I have a thing about watches. I have a thing about bags, but I have a thing about watches too. I'll watch a lot of content here on YouTube. In fact, even whether it's in English or not, I'll watch the content. I'll read online reviews, and I build this picture in my head about a watch. This surpassed all of that. From the floppy strap, which just you put it on, it fits really nicely. It feels really nice when it's on your arm. To the display, and I've said this a billion times, this has to be the future of G-Shock displays. This is the display that Casio need to keep going forward with. If you're using an old display, stop it. This is the future. This really is the future. In fact, Casio have recently released another G-Shock, which is the GBD200. You can bet your bottom dollar, well, in fact, I am going to get one, so I will bring you a review on that when I get it. First one will be on the G-Shock, will be on the Casio Dura, which I'm currently wearing. But purely from the display on this, when I go back to some of my other watches, it just feels archaic having those on my wrist compared to this. Now there probably will be some issues with the battery, because I don't think the battery will last as long as some of those other displays, but I think when it gets to the point that battery technology advances to a point that it will be, then, you know, that's that sweet spot for me. Now what I'll do is, if you would like more information about these, I will leave some links in the description below if you'd like to purchase one of these. I'll try and see if I can find some affiliate links there to no extra cost to you guys. It just gives me a small kickback towards my channel so I can continue to make content just like this. I'll also leave some of my social media links below. I'm always on Instagram. I tend to be on Instagram a lot more, but I'm always posting pictures about other watches and things that I'm testing out. So if you would like to see future things that, you know, are in the works, then it's probably the best place to find me. But yeah, you know, we get to the end of YouTube videos, we always do the same. If you'd like to show your appreciation for this content, then please feel free to hit that like button. Even if you just found it mildly amusing at any point, that would be awesome. Don't forget to subscribe with the bell notification. Don't forget to share. Apparently that helps really well with the YouTube algorithm. So yeah, but for now, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.